Hi everyone, welcome to the second video of our video series where we'll be covering morphology and parts of speech. Hopefully this will be helpful for those who are going to take part in the Linguistics Olympiad or would just like to know more about linguistics in general. Let's first understand what's morphology. Morphology refers to the study of the shapes of words and how words are constructed out of smaller meaningful pieces known as morpheme in order to express variation in meaning. For example, the word unbreakable comprises of 3 different morphemes. The root of the word is break, and the other parts are known as a stem. Un, attached before the root, is known as a prefix, and able, attached after the root, is known as a suffix. There are 2 types of morpheme. Free morphemes are any morpheme that do not have to be attached to some other morpheme in order to be used grammatically and be understood. This refers to examples such as book, fly, jump, and write. Bound morpheme refers to any morpheme that is not pronounced normally as a separate word, but must be attached phonologically to some other words, such as the S in books and un in unhappy. Now let's move on to talk about derivational versus inflectional morphology. Derivational morphology refers to the process when new words are generally formed, where the word class is changed or substantial non-grammatical meaning is added, or both. For example, terror, a noun, to terrify, a verb. Donate, a verb, to donation, a noun. Inflectional morphology refers to where the word class is not altered, but it can add a general semantic feature. For example, as in books has a function of plurality, while kill, the killed, adds a meaning of past tense. There are 10 common word classes that words can be classified into based on their functions and phonological properties. These are the noun, verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun, preposition, conjunction, numeral, article, and interjection. These words are also split into content words versus function words. Content words are those that tend to have a specific concrete meaning, such as book, father, mother, beautiful, and walk. Function words refers to those that has an abstract or general meaning or no meaning at all, but serve a grammatical function in specific constructions. This refers to your determiners, prepositions, and conjunctions, such as a, the, of, to, this, and but, and all. This table compares between content words and function words. We see that generally, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverb will fall under content words, while everything else will most likely be a function word. We see that the class member sheet for content words are also open, which means that it's easy for there to be new content words that are being used and added into the language. There are also generally more content words, which means that the class size is large. Furthermore, we mentioned earlier that content words have a more concrete and specific meaning, and when used in a text, content words don't generally repeat themselves in a sentence, which is why we see that the text frequency is lower compared to function words. Let's talk about noun next. A simple definition for noun is that it denotes things, persons, or places, but it's easy to come up with exceptions such as power, war, and words. Affixes to noun can have various functions. Firstly, it can indicate a number. In kanji spoken in Western Siberia, we see that the suffix added changes the meaning of the word house, where you can express 2 houses or many houses. Affixes can also indicate possessor, person, and number. In Somali, depending on the type of affix attached to the word, can refer to my herd, your herd, her herd, or his herd. For verb, a simple definition is that it denotes actions and processes. Again, it's easy to come up with some exceptions such as no, lack, and exist, which do not really refer to a process that you can actually go through. Affixes attached to verbs can have various functions. For example, it can represent tense. In Panijima in Australia, iku refers to the present tense, lata, the future tense, and na is the past tense. It can also represent subject persons or number. In Hungarian, látok refers to I see, lát is you see, and lát is he or she sees. The affixes added to verbs can also give an idea of the spatial orientation of the verb. For example, in Russian, we see that the prefix added actually changes the direction. For example, fly out to fly in, fly over, and fly up. When we talk about verbs, we also talk about the transitivity of verbs. Transitive verbs refers to those that can take on an object, while intransitive verbs do not have to take on an object. Object here refers to a noun, pronoun, or noun phrase that are impacted by the action of the verb. For example, sells is a transitive verb. Look at this sentence. Mary sells books. If you take away books, which is the object that sells take on, Mary sells as a sentence seems incomplete. For intransitive verbs, the verb do not have to take on an object, which is why in these sentences here, it's perfectly fine to say Mary slept, it rained, and we waited. Here, I'll also like to introduce copulative and copular verbs. Copulative verbs simply links the sentence subject to the predicate, which is a part of the sentence that says something about the subject. The most common linking verbs are am, is, are, was, were, has been, and will be. For example, the dog are friendly and June will be 70 in May. Now we'll move on to talk about adjectives. The simple definition for adjective is that it denotes properties. Again, it's easy to come up with exceptions such as urban, celestial, and vehiculars, which are not really properties that you can refer to. Affixes added can indicate comparison of various degrees. For example, in Latin, audax is bold. Audaxio is bolder of the comparative degree. Audacissimus means boldest, the superlative degree. For Tagalog, the prefix may indicate the equative degree. For example, mahal means expensive, while sing mahal means as expensive as. The affixes added may also indicate agreement with the noun that they modify. In Hindi, the masculine singular form for good is acha. The masculine plural is achi, and the feminine singular or plural is achi. As you can see, the variation in the meaning is due to the suffix that is added to the word. Here, I'll also like to introduce the processes of nominalization and denominalization. Nominalization refers to a derivational process where the root or stem of a grammatical category, typically a verb or adjective, changes to become a noun or changes from one noun to another. Denominalization refers to the reverse process of nominalization, where a noun is converted into other grammatical categories such as verb or adjective. Here, I'd like to introduce the language Olusuba spoken in Western Kenya. An interesting fact about this language is that a third of the nouns are actually derived from other lexical categories like verbs and adjectives. For example, for nominalization, write can change to writer depending on the prefix that's added, while for play, waya changes to game when omu is added to omuwayu. Other words may be formed through denominalization. For example, in iwa to oku iwa, addition of the prefix oku changes the meaning from steal to stealing or to steal. For gula to oku gula, adding the meaning of oku changes from buy to buying or to buy. That's all we have to cover for today. Here are the references that was referred to for today's video. Thank you for your time and see you at Singapore Linguistics Olympiad 2023.